If there's one thing that we can never get enough of, it's an epic love story, and Jon Bon Jovi and Dorothea Hurley have just that. After over 40 years together, the couple's marriage has been unwavering, and people can't help but wonder what the secret is to their long-lasting union. From falling in love in high school and going through the whirlwind of Jon's booming career as a rock star, we're going to tell you everything we know about how their love stood the test of time.
Just a lucky guy. I got it right the first time. It's that simple. And I wouldn't trade it.
Jon Bon Jovi and Dorothea Hurley met as high school students back in the late 1970s. The pair went to the same school in New Jersey, and when Jon first laid eyes on Dorothea, he knew that she was special. He shared, "She let me cheat off her in history. I was immediately drawn to her from the minute I saw her, and that never changed." Dorothea added, "I always said I was good at spotting potential too. I have a gift." The high school sweethearts were immediately smitten and inseparable. They dated throughout the rest of their school years, but didn't rush to get married after they both graduated in 1980. Jon was determined to pursue his career as a musician, and in 1983, he formed his own rock band, Bongiovi. The band quickly rose to success, and Jon's life was suddenly thrown into the spotlight. On the other hand, he didn't aspire for a life in the spotlight, and for a brief moment, the couple was torn in different directions. Jon and Dorothea briefly broke up in 1985, and during that time, Jon dated actress Diane Lane for 5 months.
How long did you date Jon Bon Jovi, and how big of a groupie were you?
See, he said I jaded him.
After his breakup with Diane, Jon and Dorothea were drawn back to one another and managed to rekindle their love. After the couple reconciled, they knew that what they had was forever, and they never wanted to be with anyone else. While Jon's career peaked and he enjoyed the unbelievable success of his band, he felt like there was no point in planning a big wedding when there were so many time-consuming demands that came along with his fame. He and his band were constantly touring and performing, and it felt like there was so little time to do what they wanted for themselves. Instead, he thought of a brilliant idea. He and Dorothea were going to get hitched in Vegas. The musician recalled, "I returned to Dorothea and said, 'I got an idea. Why don't we go right now?' She said, 'You're out of your mind.' I said, 'Come on, what's better than this? Right now, this moment?' And so we ran off to Las Vegas. Didn't tell a soul."
I had a night off in Los Angeles, and I just said, now. And she said, really, now? This is the best you can do. I said, right now.
After 9 years together, the high school sweethearts eloped in Vegas in April 1989. 4 years later, the couple welcomed their first child, a daughter they named Stephanie. In 1995, they had a son, Jesse. Considering their life in the spotlight, the couple decided it would be better to keep their private life away from prying eyes. Jon was already giving so much of himself and his time to the public. They wanted to be able to keep the intimacy of their family life to themselves. The musician's life got so intense that he almost missed the birth of his third child in 2002.
So it's getting harder and harder as we tour, and you get more guilty with every tour.
While Jovi played a show in New Orleans, some fans had managed to get hold of the number at his hotel room and were constantly trying to call him. Jon decided to turn off the phone, but when Dorothea called in the middle of the night to tell him her water broke, she couldn't reach him. Luckily, Bon Jovi's tour manager woke him to break the news, and he took a private plane back to New Jersey, making it back just in time for the birth of his son, Jake. In 2004, the couple welcomed their fourth and last child, a son they called Romeo. During an interview with People magazine, Jon opened up about how becoming a father had impacted his life. He shared, "You think you're in love when you're a kid and you meet your wife and get married, but you know you're in love after you have a child." In 2006, Bon Jovi and Dorothea founded the JBJ Soul Foundation, an organization that works to break the cycle of hunger, poverty, and homelessness.
We just try to make it as seamless and as warm and fuzzy as possible. It's always a warm handoff.
The nonprofit kicked things off by renovating 15 houses in Philadelphia, but eventually began working across the U.S. building and renovating homes in partnership with Habitat for Humanity. Since its founding, the Soul Foundation has built over 500 affordable housing units and opened 3 volunteer-run Soul Kitchen restaurants. Dorothea came up with the idea for the pay-if-you-can restaurants, which allow those who can afford a meal to pay for those who can't.
Dorothea created a model that really just didn't exist anywhere.
So some people come and they volunteer for their meals, and other people come in and pay.
Dorothea was determined to help people in whatever way she could, and wanted to find a way to give back to the world. She was incredibly aware of how privileged their life had become following her husband's success, and wanted to use some of the fortunes that they had made to do some good. Dorothea didn't think it was fair to see people suffer while her family was able to get whatever it was that they needed and more. She shared, "We have been so blessed and lucky. To see people not be able to feed their families is just not acceptable. It's rare for rock stars in Hollywood to have such a long-lasting union. In fact, most of them have a notorious reputation for short and fleeing marriages that quickly lead to messy divorces. However, John and Dorothea were clearly a very rare gem amongst all the rest." 2010 marked the couple's 21st wedding anniversary. During an interview with Men's Health, Jon Bon Jovi opened up about why his marriage to Dorothea was different. It should come as no surprise that he credited his wife for all the compassion and support she'd shown him throughout all their years together. No matter how demanding his career became, she never held it against him and always encouraged him to pursue his music because she knew it was important to him. John shared, "I'm not a saint, and I have not been a saint. I missed tons of birthdays and school plays. Dorothea has been in it the whole game. She understands what it means. It's my life, and it is what it is." 2 years later, the couple was faced with an unimaginable tragedy after their eldest daughter, Stephanie, who was just 19 years old at the time, suffered a drug overdose. Stephanie called her parents from the hospital and told her father that she had overdosed on heroin.
That must have been so terrifying, John.
The worst phone call ever.
Thankfully, she made a full recovery, and the drug charges against her were eventually dropped. Unfortunately, the experience left both John and his wife extremely rattled after being so close to losing their daughter. Bon Jovi later shared, "It was horrible, a horrible moment. It was my worst moment as a father. The first thing she said was, 'I'm all right.' But then she said, 'This is what happened. You wake up, you shake it off, and put your shoes on and say, okay, I am on the way home.'" The musician went on to describe the incident as a terrible speed bump that their family was able to get over, adding, "There was no need to be any closer to our kids. We couldn't get any closer." Dorothea said, "It happens to a lot of families that you would never know. We dealt with it as a family." Despite the incredible fame that he had built over the last few decades, John shared that his children are the ones who keep him humble when he's not touring the world. He explained, "You go from that life of vampires, then suddenly you're taking the garbage out and the kids to school, going to bed at 10:30. It's a dramatic change." Bon Jovi and Dorothea are often asked about the secret to being in a long-term relationship. In 2016, Dorothea shared in an interview, "Somehow it works. I think because we grow at the same rate. We grew equally and not in opposite directions."
And I think if you can grow together and have the same kind of values and respect for each other, then I think that you can
Certainly survive.
Bon Jovi added, "She's the glue." He described himself as the crazy visionary with all kinds of things flying, and the seams are all splitting, while his wife is the one following him with the glue and the thread and needle, keeping it all together. In 2018, after 35 years as a group, the band Bon Jovi was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame 2018. The singer's entire family showed up to support him. Later that same year, the couple celebrated their son Jesse's wine lunch. John and his son founded Hampton Water, a brand of rosé sourced from a vineyard in the south of France. The musician shared, "When you're in a band, you always say it's like a family, but when you're really working with your family, it's totally different. It's been a dream." Just shy of his 30th wedding anniversary, Bon Jovi shared that his fans were distraught after he and Dorothea got married. He explained, "It was like Harry Styles or Justin Timberlake getting married. I was that to the young girls in my time. When I came back from Vegas, my manager was furious. He was like, 'America's boy is now married. That's not a good career move.' The record company was also despondent." In 2020, after 40 years together, Bongiovi shared the secret to his marriage with Dorothea. He explained that it all came down to a mutual respect, adding, having grown up together and grown together. And we really like each other. We want to hang out. On the couple's 32nd wedding anniversary, Bongiovi shared a touching tribute to Dorothea. Alongside a black and white photo from their Las Vegas wedding, he wrote, "If I got one thing right back in high school, it was falling in love with this girl." There is no doubt that John and Dorothea's marriage has stood the test of time and all the pressures of life in the spotlight. No matter how many times he toured the world, the one person he always wanted to come back to was Dorothea, because she has always been his home. They fell in love in high school and have been inseparable for over 40 years. If that's not an epic love story, we don't know what is.